So it is time to compare the three most popular main battle tanks in the game at the moment. I believe it's going to be very fun to see how these vehicles will perform, and I think it is going to be very fun to see their differences. Now, I think I'll start with the OF-40. Now this thing is awesome, currently the highest, tier 8. It has a 105mm main gun, does have a PFSDS, HE-ATFS, and does have a high explosive. It is fairly fast, 65 km/h is top speed, reverse 25 km/h. The penetration is on average 240mm. It does have some decent frontal armor protection. It can bounce shells, but as we all know, you don't really rely on the armor when it comes to high tier, but this vehicle is really good. And the gun is stabilized, which is going to make it very easy to aim on the move. It's also a low profile vehicle, and the turret is fairly tanky. The gun mantlet can bounce some shells. Now, the ZTZ88A is currently the player's favorite. A lot of players love this tank, and honestly I can see why. It is one of the few vehicles that has a composite armor, which means that it's quite resistant to shells. It is probably the best armored main battle tank at the moment. The frontal plate can definitely bounce shells, and it is honestly a robust vehicle. Has also a PFSDS and HE-ATFS ammo, which means that you will be able to penetrate all the vehicles. Does have the best average penetration, but the reload and mobility on this tank is definitely a little bit lower than on the OF, but does have good penetration. I think this gun does penetrate a bit more. This APFSDS does penetrate a bit more than the OF, which is very interesting. But yeah, this vehicle is awesome, and it is currently the player's favorite from what I can tell. And then there is the Leopard A1A1, which is my favorite main battle tank at the moment, although I also like the OF. The Leopard is very maneuverable, a very similar performance to the OF with much worse armor. The Leopard has basically no armor, it's paper, but has a 105mm main gun and does have a PFSDS and HE-ATFS and hash. So you do get about the same performance as the OF, but the OF does have a much better armor. The Leopard is definitely fast and the OF is fast, but the OF has definitely a better frontal plate, and the OF can bounce shells. The Leopard should not be relying on any type of armor, because this thing, as we all know, is paper, so it can't really... It can bounce shells, but sometimes you can actually absorb hits with the turret. So, how do these things perform in combat? Well, let's find out. Now I will start with the Leopard because, well, why not? It is funny because you do get a Leopard 1A5 in the OF platoon, which is about the same Leopard as the A1A1, but does have some little upgrade protection and does have supposedly better ammunition. But the DM33A PFSDS isn't added yet in the game for I don't know what reason, but hopefully very soon the DM33 will be added, and the DM33 on the Leopard 1A5 will be amazing. Should penetrate a lot of armor and should probably be one of the better shots that we have. But at the moment the 1A5 and the A1A1 is about the same vehicle. Now the thing about this Leopard, the thing about Leopard in general is I like their maneuverability. They are very maneuverable, they're fast, and they are tanks that have fantastic gun depression. You can lower the gun, and as you can see, you can use the cover to your protection, to your advantage basically, and you can kill tanks this way. You should take advantage of the terrain, you should take advantage of anything that you can, cover terrain. You should by any means avoid taking any hits, because this thing has no armor, and the ammo is stored in the frontal section of the tank, so you can get ammo racked quite easily. Although when I'm shooting at the Leopard with anything, basically it doesn't do any damage to this ammo, which you know it is just how the game is at some cases. But the A1A1 is definitely a very maneuverable medium tank, and even after a couple months of the release of this vehicle, it is still awesome. I really do like this vehicle. At first, when I got the Leopard for the first time, I think it was the Leopard 1, I wasn't really a fan of the tank. It was paper, wasn't really used to driving a paper tank. Now it's a total different story. Now I'm driving paper tanks, and they are indeed very good. The main thing about this Leopard is the main gun. The main gun is awesome. Now there is the question: well, which one of these three vehicles has the best gun? All of the guns are stabilized. All of them have a stabilizer, with the exception of the Mk.2A. That one doesn't have a stabilizer for some reason. If it had the stabilizer, it would probably be my favorite vehicle. The only reason why I haven't included the AMX is the lack of a stabilizer. That's the only reason why I did not include that vehicle for this video, but I will compare it some other time to the Leopard and to the OF. But the main advantage and the main difference is definitely the stabilizer. The stabilizer is important, especially if you want to shoot at targets while moving. Important when you need to react on time, basically. You want to be able to react first. A stabilized gun is going to shoot faster, and will shoot much sooner than a non-stabilized gun. And it has much better accuracy as well, so that's why the stabilization is important, especially for a main battle tank. In that regard, the AMX is definitely outclassed by all the three other vehicles in the tier. Doesn't mean that the AMX is bad. It's a very good vehicle. It just means that, oh look, that guy tried to flank. I knew that something would just pop around the corner. Okay, now let me go back. So the Leopard, this is basically how you should be playing Leopard, very actively. You can also use this tank as a sniper if you like. This gun is very accurate at long distances, very fast. The APFSDS shell is very fast, so it can snipe and it has fantastic range. Don't have to aim that much with this vehicle, since it is a very fast shell. For a main battle tank, it is very important that it has a PFSDS, because it is kind of required to have that. How did that not penetrate? I have absolutely no idea. I'll just shoot the upper plate. There we go. How did that not penetrate the first time? I don't know. Well, let me take the aircraft and let's see if I can get some kills with it. The Leopards is also a tank that you can play in a platoon. I mean, you can play any tank in a platoon, but a Leopard platoon is very fun, since you can cover a much wider area, and you can also have a friend to basically be support. They can help cover you, and you don't have to rely that much on the team. And the main reason why I like this vehicle is probably the speed and maneuverability. It has a very fast rotating turret. Overall, it is a very maneuverable vehicle. Only the OF is basically like the Leopard when it comes to maneuverability. When it comes to speed, they're close. I think the Leopard is still a bit faster, but I haven't had much chance to go full speed with the OF, but it's still a fast vehicle. But the Leopard does feel a bit faster and a bit more maneuverable, although the maneuverability should be about the same. And that's how I played the Leopard in this match. Pretty good. It was a pretty good match, not gonna lie. Was a decent match. Could have been better, but I guess it's fine. Not going to complain. Not going to complain. So let's go to the next main battle tank, and I will be using. I'll go with the OF. Now this thing does look like a modern tank. It does look kind of like the Leopard 2A actually. In a way it does look like that vehicle, but to be honest, all of the modern or more modern main battle tanks kind of do look the same, honestly. They all kind of look the same. All of them have about the same design, I guess. So yeah, but the OF has a faster turret, definitely has a faster turret. It has better frontal protection, and does also have APFSDS. I mean, APFSDS is APFSDS. Not going to complain about APFSDS. It's the best ammo that you can be using at the moment. HE-ATFS is also decent, but APFSDS is where it's at, since it just does much more damage when it penetrates, and it is good, although I still do have HE-ATFS on some vehicles, mostly versus the more lightly armored vehicles, where the the detonation of the impacts is basically doing damage as well, and you can overpressure with that, so yeah, I still use it occasionally depending on the vehicle and depending on target. But the OF is, I mean, the vehicle is playing very similar to the Leopard. The turret is much faster, and the turret is definitely one huge improvement over the Leopard. And the amount of damage that the shell is doing is also about the same. The Leopard is using DM23, which is the same ammo that you are also using on the STRV-103C. With the only difference is the STRV-103C has a much longer gun and has an autoloader. But the OF and the Leopard do reload about the same, 6.7 seconds. Which is okay reload. They reload a little bit faster than the ZTZ88A, which is a slight advantage that we are seeing between the vehicles. At least when it comes to the reload performance, but the ZTZ does have a higher average penetration. Although it doesn't really matter how much it penetrates, since any APFSDS that we have in Hyper is more than enough to go through any armor, so it doesn't matter if it's like 340 or 400mm penetration, it is APFSDS and it penetrates no matter what it hits, so yeah. The amount of damage that it is doing is also very decent. Does have the same amount of damage. I mean, it's APFSDS, so not all is the same. Of course, not all APFSDS is the same, but they all have about the same performance when they penetrate. The worst APFSDS is on the T62, but it is also the fastest APFSDS. Goes at 1.7 kilometers per second, which is very fast. So that's one thing that I guess does separate them. The shell velocity is much greater on some of the vehicles, but in this case, on these three vehicles, the shell velocity is about the same. No little difference. A little difference between the speed, but it's not too much. thing that you have to keep in mind with this vehicle, you can't really shoot behind because the engine is in the way. You can't lower the gun when you're looking at a tank that's behind you. So one thing that to keep in mind, if you have something behind you, then you have to basically rotate the vehicle, the whole vehicle, in order to be able to hit them. Just one thing that you need to remember if you plan to use this vehicle, and if you get jumped from someone behind, well, you need to know that there are tanks that you can't really rotate the turret all the way back. But this vehicle can be played in a more active way if you like, of course. But in the end, I just say play the vehicle the way you want to play the vehicle. Any gameplay style is going to work just fine with the. I mean, if you play the Leopard, playing this vehicle is honestly about the same. There is like very little difference. Only difference is, I guess, better armor and better turret rotation, but everything else is honestly that does feel about the same, and that's a good thing, because if you play the Leopard, then you will have no problems in playing this vehicle. I mean, at one point, all these vehicles will start to feel the same. At least that's what's starting to happen to me. All of the vehicles that I play right now are starting to feel about the same. They start to feel like any other vehicle that I'm playing, basically, because they all play in almost the same way, actually. Not entirely the same, but you know, very similar when it comes to how they feel and how they work. And this does look like it's about to be a victory. Only 5 kills, but I'll take it. Only 5 kills, I'll take it. Five kills should be enough. Well, I wasn't bad. A decent little match. And now let's go to the ZTZ88A. Now the ZTZ88A is definitely a bit different. This vehicle is a little bit slower. It is a bit more, I guess. It does feel slower. The turret is slower, but it has much better armor. It's still fairly fast. When I say slower, I don't mean that this tank is slow. It is obviously not slow. It goes from point A to point B and does accelerate very quickly. But compared to the other main battle tanks that we had today, it is definitely slow. But it has a very good main gun, and honestly, the main gun is what's making this thing fun to use. Leopard A1A1 destroy, that's the first kill. And there's one Leopard, there's the Leopard 1 creeping around the corner over there. The side armor on this vehicle is not the best, but honestly, no side armor on any main battle tank is good. They all have about the same vulnerable sides, but in the end that doesn't really matter, since the frontal armor is all that matters on these vehicles. Although, as we all know, we don't really rely on the armor. I personally rely on the cover, or as I like to say, I rely on a rock. No shell can penetrate a rock. That is impenetrable, so don't have to worry about that. That's another kill. Nice ammo detonation there. And this position is pretty decent for the ZTZ. You can also go here with any other main battle tank. You will be surrounded by enemy tanks though, but that's not a big problem. Okay, that was a M103. I can't risk it there, but composite armor is good. I always wondered why the ZTZ does seem to be taking less damage when it gets penetrated. It's because of the composite armor. It's very interesting, but protection-wise, this definitely has the best protection, at least from the front and the turret. It is a fairly armored vehicle. That's why you actually can bounce shells with the ZTZ. The ZTZ and the STRV-103C are some of the few tanks that you can kind of rely on the armor, but still, when I say rely, sometimes it works. A well-placed hit. The lower plate is basically a weak spot for the ZTZ. The lower plate's kind of flat, and if you get hit there, it goes in. But you can still bounce or absorb shells with the frontal fuel tank. The fuel tank can absorb shells, so which is kind of funny. But yeah, the fuel tank on this thing can take hits, and it can absorb a whole shell, which is one thing to keep in mind. Not to say to rely on the fuel tank to keep the tank safe, but it is funny to know that the fuel tank on this thing can bounce shells. Well, not bounce, but absorb. You get hit in the fuel tank, and the tank is alive, no internal damage. And the fuel tank is at the front right side of the vehicle. That's where it should be. You can see that on the X-ray window there on the corner, close to the tank's speed. And the match, and that was a good match actually. Well, not the best match, but it will do. It will do. It was a fairly good match. So that was the ZTZ88A, Leopard A1A1, and the OF, all of which are honestly very good vehicles. And tell me which one of these vehicles you guys prefer. I think it's going to be very interesting to see what tanks you guys like to drive the most. But with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed. If you would like to support me, feel free to like and subscribe. And with that being said, stay safe. As always, I'll see you next time.